Hello. Today I will be featuring the Royal Navy Tier 10 cruiser, the Minotaur. The Minotaur was incredibly strong before this patch, and honestly, not much really has changed. It's still incredibly strong. Enemy team says just to notify my team, everyone shoot Flamu. That's always, of course, a promising start when the enemy team will be heavily focusing you. But then again, if you're a Minotaur, everyone's going to focus you regardless, so that's not exactly surprising. Now, the Minotaur, as I said, it's very strong, but it is situational in the way that it's, of course, exceptionally weak to radar. And that's mostly because if you end up against a team that has Moskvas that know what they're doing, or Missouris that like to push in and such, you struggle quite heavily. Even a Des Moines can wreck you pretty hard if he just straight up pushes into you. So those are, of course, always the threats, and of course there's going to be DDs who will probably want to torp your smoke as well. So those are the weaknesses. The strength is of course the incredible heal, the ability to smoke up anywhere, which makes positioning somewhat easy. Of course, you often see people who only plan to the point where they smoke up. They never plan what to do after the smoke runs out. So you see people position very aggressively in a Minotaur, sit in their smoke and shoot, and then when the smoke runs out, they have nowhere to run and they get killed trying to flee, which is quite common. Anyway, it's still one of the strongest ships, or one of the strongest tier 10 cruisers in the game, absolutely. But it does have its weaknesses. In fact, I could probably post the Moskva clip where I think I take on two Minotaurs and kill them both, because, well, angled Moskva takes very little damage from a Minotaur, whereas the Stellinium AP just absolutely shreds the ship, and the radar makes the smokes, of course, completely useless. But that's a different story. Now, build-wise, I have actually tried running RPF on this ship, because, well, wanting to know where the closest DD is, maybe being able to angle against potential torpedoes, because it's got such great stealth and it tends to be quite close to enemy DDs. Maybe it would be a decent DD hunter, or maybe it would help it. But ultimately, whenever you pop out behind a corner and you spot the DD spots you, the problem is that everyone on the map starts shooting at you, and the Minotaur can't really take that kind of punishment. So then you're forced to slow down and smoke up, and honestly, just hunting DDs with this thing really isn't that useful, and it really doesn't work as a DD hunter simply because of that. So, and of course the enemy DD can simply smoke up right away, so it felt like a waste of 4 points. Of course, there was the constant torpedoes you had to deal with. When you smoke up in a Royal Navy cruiser, especially in the Minotaur, well, not only is there 1 or 2 smoke puffs for the enemy to focus on, but you also send out a steady stream of AP shells, so it's very easy to see exactly where you're sitting, which means there's going to be a lot of torps going in there. So since I didn't have RPF, and I didn't find RPF that reliable for angling towards torpedoes, because, well, if 2 DDs torp you from different angles, then having RPF doesn't help since it only points at 1. So ultimately I went for Vigilance on top of Hydroacoustic Surge. That's, of course, to not leave yourself completely exposed to torpedoes whenever Hydro was on cooldown. They are a bit desynced, so you can't really have Hydro for the entire time you smoke and so forth. There's a bit of desync going on between those 2 skills. So ultimately I chose Vigilance to help me out with that. Priority target, to see how many are targeting you. I mean, it's not that useful. Preventive maintenance could also have been fairly reliable, but sometimes it's good to know if some battleships hiding further back are actually targeting you. Like if the number starts going up and you don't see that many targets, you know you're being targeted from far away and you need to evade and such. And it's pretty, I mean, for a 1-point perk, it's quite useful. And preventive maintenance, I mean, you don't really, the thing with this ship is you don't really take that much sustained damage that you would need preventive maintenance. The damage you take in this ship is usually heavy bursts during the times that you are exposed. You don't really brawl with other ships much. It's mostly just, oh, your smoke ran out, you got spotted, or you got radared, you hit a huge amount of damage, you heal up as you run away, and then you don't really take any more damage. So the preventive maintenance doesn't really fit the style of this ship because, well, as I said, it doesn't take sustained damage. So instead, of course, I took priority target. Tier 2, I've taken Adrenaline Rush because I love that perk. Not that the ship needs the additional DPS or torpedo reload or anything, but I mean, it just makes it stronger. It's such a great perk for 2 points that there's no point not taking it. I've also taken Jack of all trades, since it's a tier 2 perk now, and slightly lowers the cooldown, of course, of smoke, repair, heal, hydro. You have 4 consumables and it benefits them all, so it's such a good investment of 2 points in that sense. That was tier 4, tier 2, I'm sorry, and tier 4 finally, since I didn't go with RPF. Of course, I went for stealth. That's pretty much a must-have. It lets you sneak much closer, means you're detected less. Okay, I'm gonna have to smoke up here, I think, if I'm detected for too long. Yeah, gonna see if I can maybe get something done. This game is starting to look pretty rough, since they got them B control and they're flanking us from both sides. Now, as I was saying, tier 4 I ultimately went for manual AA, since it's kind of debatable which one you go for, AFT or manual AA. I can discuss those more later, but either one is honestly good. I didn't bother investing more than that 1 tier 4 point into AA, because, well, you already have fairly good AA and there's not really enough tier 10 cruisers to bother speccing too heavily into it. Consumable or module wise, or upgrade wise, I run the reload module, not the range one, because even at shooting at something at max range without the range module, you already get extremely floaty arcs, which makes it tough to actually land any shells on your target. So I thought the additional range was just a waste of time. I'd rather go for additional DPM, aka more damage. What's this Udalo doing? It's reversing, I don't know, he thinks he's in cover or something. He's in the middle of the open sea. Well, he's smoking up and bailing as expected. Our positioning is very questionable right now, though. As you can see, the enemy team is pushing from 2 sides, and we have very little map control. That's me, I think, radared. I think I'm radared, yeah. Yeah, they have a chopper somewhere down south. Now, because of that, I'm reversing out into cover. You saw 2 people targeted me. They couldn't really shoot at me, but you see people target you a lot in the Minotaur, because people just want to shoot this ship in general. You're such a juicy target. Everyone wants to take a pot shot at you because you can do so much damage to this thing. Angled, it can somewhat deal with cruisers. Like angled, you can tank cruiser AP quite okay. But if you give any sort of broadside, pretty much every single cruiser in the game can almost one-shot you, because you just get so many citadels shooting at this ship, and it's so very easy to citadel as well. The Sao, however, he is not aiming at me. He is being a bit too greedy. He's gonna die before he can even target me because of the DPM. Oh, the rune, not aiming at me either. He wants the enemy rune, I think. I'm careful I don't reverse too far out. If this rune decides to target me, still not targeting me. If he starts to target me, I need to angle, and I'm already moving back into cover in case he focuses me. I'm keeping an eye out on that prior target thing. See, he targeted me, but because it looked like I'm going into cover, he stopped targeting me. Now he's shooting me. But because it's a rune, he can only use his front guns right now. It's only when he turns so that he can use his back guns that I will consider him a real threat. Because you can eat a couple citadels worth of damage because your heal is so great. Now my smoke is active though, and he is fairly exposed. The Iowa is of course a threat. I don't know if he wants to push around this corner or not. Shit, we're actually down to, what, 5 ships? 6 ships against 8, and they have 2 caps. This is becoming very, very hard to carry right now. Focusing on the Iowa, on the rune, because I think I can just torp the Iowa. I would have been spotted by the Iowa already if he wasn't running concealment module. And here I actually make a mistake, because I thought he was pushing out, but it turns out he was stopping. Now, the reason why I consider this mistake is because if I had been slightly more patient there, instead of launching the normal tight spread torpedoes, I could have use the Royal Navy specific torpedo type, or torpedo firing method, which is of course firing 1 torpedo at a time. And if I had been slightly more patient there and considered the fact that he was stopping, I wasn't actually expecting him to stop, but then I could have fired 4 single file torpedoes at him instead and landed all 4 of them, which would have probably killed him. So that would have been the optimal thing to do there. I'm spotted, the rune is turning his turrets, but my DPM is too high. I'm gonna kill him before he has time to shoot me. So if I had actually, instead of using the tight spread there, if I have shot the single file torps one at a time, I would have been able to kill him. So a bit of a shame that I didn't consider it, but then again I didn't expect the Iowa to push and then stop like that. Strange decision. I still had my second volley of torps ready if he would have pushed harder though. Of course you got 2 torpedo launchers on both sides. But that was a kill potential that I missed, which is of course always something worth pointing out. And something to keep in mind the next time. Of course, you don't often consider it because if you don't play a lot of Royal Navy, because Royal Navy are the only ships capable of launching the single file torpedoes, and most of the time it's fairly useless. But that was one specific situation where I could have actually gotten a kill, but by not using it I missed out on the kill. Constantly checking in case that guy is pushing. Now enemy Minotaur is also focusing me. There's Benson in that smoke. Gonna torp him. I am undetected, so there's no need for me to smoke up right now. And I do want to keep my left side towards the Iowa in case he does push, so that I can torp him if need be. Oh, this Fletcher is being much too aggressive. Does he think he can torp me before I kill him? Oh wow, he even got torped by the gearing. I would have killed him in seconds regardless, because he's simply too squishy to be able to withstand the damage you put out. They still have a massive point lead though. But this position that I have is actually a very good position for the Minotaur. Of course this ship is, as I said, much about positioning. I only have 1 smoke left and I don't really want to waste it. But this ship is a lot about positioning, and right now this positioning is great because it forces everyone to get into close combat with me, and the Minotaur is of course fantastic at close range because of the insane damage and insane torps all combined. Gearing is pushing the Benson, so I should kind of wait to see if the Benson pops up, which it does. Nice, got the kill on the Benson. And since he's dead now I'm going to push the Iowa. What I'm gambling on here is I have left this Iowa alone for so long, and every time I've been spotted I've been playing it safe. So I'm hoping his guns are turned the other way. Because if his guns are turned the other way, I can actually, at this close range, I can probably outturn his turret. And as you can see, his guns are pointed the wrong way here. So I launch my right hand torps and I turn sharply to his right, which means I turn faster than his turrets can turn. He's trying to turn his ship around and he's trying to turn his turrets around, but before his turrets can even make this turn, my torpedoes will have arrived and I managed to kill him off. So what a 6 versus 8 or something has now quickly been equalized to a much more comfortable situation. And now I can hunt this Udaloy. He did note that he only launched 1 set of torpedoes, so he might still have another volley of torpedoes left. So I'm gonna play it pretty calmly. I checked behind me to make sure it was only 1 volley of torps. Always keep in mind how many torps you have seen someone launch. It lets you know if they still have torpedoes in safe. So that's why I'm taking it calmly here. If you look at my cooldown, you see that my Hydro is coming up soon. I slow down a bit. The idea was of course to pop Hydro and then push the smoke. But now that I spotted the Udaloy and the fact that he was already running away, now I won't bother at all and I can just push aggressively into B. They still have a point lead, but they are forced to flee now. What is this Kutuzov doing? Oh my, is he stopping completely full broadside? Yeah, he hits all the torps. That was surprisingly silly of him, considering we have 2 DDs left. Stopping like that in the open was never going to end well. This gearing is telling me to spot for him. Flamu, come, spot. Okay, just for the sake, for someone who is confused here, the gearing spots for the Minotaur. The Minotaur does not spot for the gearing. I don't know what delusions this guy is working under, but that's not really how it works. Popping Hydro, and the idea was, of course, I want to ambush this Minotaur on the enemy team. The gearing is... where's the gearing pushing in? Okay, the gearing is pretty stupid. He shouldn't be pushing in first, because if he faces the Minotaur can melt a gearing extremely quickly. I have no idea what this guy is doing. he should let me go first, since I can actually deal with the Minotaur, whereas he will just get wrecked by him. Minotaur, however, gives me full broadside upon seeing me, which means I can easily dispatch of him with a quick 4 citadels, which of course also gives me my Kraken and Confederate and High Caliber, all the rewards, and in this way we actually managed to turn the game around. I don't really know why this gearing was so eager on pushing in here. If I hadn't pushed in there, he would have just straight up died to that Minotaur. He would have absolutely had nothing to say to him. As a DD, you can't rush a Minotaur. He just melts you so quickly. Oh, Udala spotted, most likely by the Donskoy radar, I would assume, since I didn't actually see him fire until then. No? Maybe not, because he did smoke up. But smoking up against Donskoy is questionable. And I assume it's the Donskoy radar that's now spotting him, since he is completely in the open. See if I could maybe secure my 6th kill, but it's looking pretty unlikely with how defensive he is. Oh well, with all the shells going in there. Nope, it was the Donskoy that managed to secure it. Anyway, the game ends 165k, which isn't really that much for a Minotaur. The Minotaur is quite the DPM monster, but it was a fairly close game and we were quite heavily on the losing side. But it showed off mostly the positioning of the Minotaur, and just by playing it patient and safe and letting the enemy come to me, I kind of was able to destroy them one by one from a very strong positional advantage. They come to me, they have to show broadside because they're coming around a cliff or an island, and before they can even react, the massive damage from the Minotaur melts them. Build wise, on my base XP, I mean 2.6k XP, not really that special, but I mean it's always a good game. And looking at the damage, well, torpedoes only did 25k damage. It was mostly, of course, AP damage, which is pretty common. Not really much else to discuss here, so I'll be moving on right to the build itself. Alright, starting off, going to modules, consumables, premium repair if you can afford it. Premium smoke is probably one of the priorities as well. The heal is really fantastic if you can afford it as well. This is one of those ships that's gain a lot from running all premium consumables. So if you can afford it, do it. It becomes a lot stronger. Main armaments mod 1, AA guns range, because the other ones are pretty useless on this thing. Reload mod, once again, the other ones are fairly useless on this thing. Damage control system 1, because you don't really lose engine or steering for that matter. Range mod I consider useless because, well, with these arcs, good luck shooting anything at long range. Yes, you can stealth fire, but you're not going to be hitting much. Steering gears mod 2, concealment system mod 1. And of course, captain perks themselves. Priority target, as I mentioned, lets you know how many people are focusing on you. And adrenaline rush for that increase when you go low. Jack of all trades, scales really well with this ship. Vigilance for additional torpedo protection, and superintendent for, of course, one of every additional cooldown. Now vigilance, as I said, I chose this because I gave up on RPF, and without RPF and vigilance you are way too reliant on hydro to be able to utilize smokes. Manual AA and concealment expert. Now worth discussing here is if you go manual AA or AFT. AFT is quite good because it increases the range of your second largest or your second largest caliber AA, so you can increase that to 7.2 km, which is pretty goddamn good, and it of course also increases your big caliber guns. Manual AA, on the other hand, of course only increases your 152mm DPS. So AFT, larger radius but less damage within that radius, whereas manual AA means not as large radius but more significantly more damage within it. So which one you ultimately choose is pretty up to interpretation. I prefer AFT, manual AA, because if someone focuses me or a ship near me, then I like being as strong as possible, and manual AA is very strong at that, because if someone tries to torp my smoke or something, it's very strong against it. But if you don't have any issues with someone actually focusing you in a Minotaur ever, or anyone near you, then you can just go AFT. Both are good. I don't think there's any real right or wrong choice here. Both options are extremely good. I don't bother going for both. Showing the priority, in which I would take the skills if I was leveling a new captain. I'll probably take manual AA before going for vigilance. because you want that AA, and Jack of all trades would probably be my last perk to take. Anyway, that was my Minotaur commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.